Okay, Betsy. Tell me where we are right now.
We're at Kennebunk Beach.
Kennebunk Beach, one of your favorite places to visit, right?
Absolutely my favorite place, yes.
In the state of Maine. This is your spot right
This
here.
is it.
Okay.
We would always go to dinner and then come down here to welcome in the new year. We spent a ton of time down here with our dog Samantha, walking, swimming, kayaking.
You told me this one kayaking story. You have to tell me that again, please.
My very first time surf kayaking, my husband was teaching me, and he said, we got out in the water and he flipped the boat and he said, you can't kayak, you can't learn how to kayak until you can learn how to get out of the boat. You have to be safe. So
you did a little like water egress,
yes.
Capsize drill?
Yes.
Okay. And then after you survived that, you kind of returned the favor a little bit?
Yes, I did. Then
okay.
I pushed him under the water.
Well, that's something you told me about Chris that really struck me, Betsy, was he was an avid outdoorsman.
Absolutely.
Right? Tell me some of the other activities that he just loved.
Hiking, rock climbing, skiing, flying, anything outdoors. Hiking was a big thing, both in Maine and Colorado.
Wow.
Skiing in both states.
Wow. You told me a story about your first date. Can you please tell me that one again?
Sure. We actually went flying for our first date.
Amazing.
And it was amazing. I'd never been flying in a small plane before. And it was quite an experience and quite a first date.
And led to second and third and fourth and a marriage. So, all right, I'll pay attention to that one. That's a good one. Okay, good first date with a good success rate. That's
23 years later.
23 years later. Really good with his hands. He could like look at something and it would be fixed. He could touch a car and it was fixed, right?
Absolutely, he could fix anything. It didn't matter if it was a car or something in the house. He could build anything. He could fix anything.
You said he built boats too?
He did. He built boats.
Oh wow.
Furniture.
Wow.
All kinds of different things.
Tremendous. And coming back to his character, right? He took care of his troops. He put them first, right?
Absolutely. That was his motto, was mission first, but take care of your troops always. And that's really what he lived for. Tell
me the story about the satellite phone, when he would get a chance to use that.
When he was in Iraq, because he was a first sergeant, he had a sat phone. And he would, at the end of the day, he would pass it around to let his troops call home. And then when everybody was done, he would call me to say goodnight. So I was the last call most nights.
Yeah. But he shared those minutes, and he shared that resource to let other people benefit and connect with their loved ones half a world away, right? Absolutely. And that's putting other people first, and that's taking care of not only the troops but their families too,
because
they were reassured that their husband was okay too. Tremendous service. Bit of a prankster.
Yes.
Tell me what you want to tell me about the prank that he did to somebody. Somebody must have done something really bad.
One of his coworkers in the park service pulled a prank on him, and so to pay him back, he took apart one of the Ranger cars and put, I don't know if it was like blue cheese or something that smelled really bad, and he hid it in the vent of the car. So the car smelled awful, and it took them forever to figure out what had happened and fix it.
Because he combined his mechanical skills with his creative skills, with his prankster skills, and nobody knew. Nobody could figure that out.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells me about his sense of humor, right? Like he kind of got it. You know, he had a good sense of perspective. But then he would always put other people first. Tell me about the stone. Right there. Hold it up for me, Betsy, right there. Okay, there it is. We got the bigger one of the two. That's right.
It is pretty heavy.
It's pretty heavy. Tell me where you got it from.
I got this here from Kennebunk Beach.
Sure.
And I picked this stone because I have one at home that looks very similar to this, although it's quite a bit smaller.
Right.
That Chris had given to me before he went overseas to Iraq. And just because as a memento of all the time that we spent down here.
Right.
And so that was really special to me. So I went searching for one and saw this one that looked just like that.
And it was right over this point, right here at Kennebunk Beach.
Yep.
You are so dedicated to the mission of retrieving that one. It became like a wet water operation.
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
All right. Well, I fell in. The tide was coming in, the rocks were a little slippery, and so I got a little wet retrieving this. And it was quite chilly, but it was worth it.
You survived. That's right. You gutted it out. You got the stone. Yeah. People were looking at you probably funny.
They were. And my family laughed at me when they saw me come home with my pants soaking wet
Absolutely. Yep.
It was
Small
worth it.
small price to pay.
Yes.
Small price to pay.
Absolutely.
When hikers might fall or stumble or feel some distress or discomfort when they're hiking this stone, tell me what they need to be thinking about in terms of your husband. What do they need to know about Chris?
Chris is someone who would help anybody in need. It could be a person, an animal, a total stranger, a family member, anyone, anywhere. And I think probably a good example of that is he had just gotten home from a tour in Kosovo right before 9/11.
Right.
He was home, I think, 2 days when 9/11 happened, and he was a search and rescue professional.
Okay.
So as soon as it happened, he packed up and headed down to New York City to help with the search and rescue before his unit even got called up.
Right.
So anytime there was a need, he was there to help.
I love you made me think of it again, or reminded me again of the dog story. So your dog Samantha, who's no longer with us, right? Had just as great memories on this beach, right, as you guys did, running up and down and being free and everything. But how did he find Samantha? That's a great story.
He was working doing law enforcement in New Jersey, and he was working at this one particular place, and Samantha was a puppy there, and there was a gardener on the location, and Chris saw the gardener hitting Samantha, and intervened and scooped her up and
like right on the spot.
Yes,
right on the spot. Yeah.
No one was going to hurt an animal in front of him.
No.
Or anyone for that matter.
That's right.
So,
yep. Person or animal.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So he called me and said, "I'm bringing this puppy home just until we can find her a good home." And she was ours for 18 years, and we were very, very blessed to have her.
Betsy, we have a new family member. Just like that. Yeah. You told me that when he'd see a stray dog like running down the street, cars pulling over.
Yeah.
Chasing it down?
Yeah, if there was a dog loose on the highway or a dog that looked sick or it wasn't in a safe place, he would stop to...
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories that you shared with me was how he would remind you of his love for you when he was deployed and the things he did ahead of time before his deployments to let you know that you were special to him. So do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. He wrote little notes to me on little index cards and hid them all over the house before he left.
So cool.
In the dog food, under my pillow, in the medicine cabinet. They were all over the place. And he also, the night before he left, we went outside and we're looking at the stars, and he pointed out a particular star, and he's like, "I'll be able to see that same star from Iraq." And I was really touched by that. And at his funeral service, one of his guys that was with him in Iraq told me he used to go out every night and be like staring at the stars, and we didn't know what he was doing. We all thought it was like laying on top of the truck looking at the stars. And he said it wasn't until I heard the story about him showing you the star that we realized he was out there checking out that same star.
Wow.
So I was really touched by that. Tremendous.
He cared for people.
Very much.
Right? He loved people. He served others before himself. I love how you told me how you guys exchanged care packages a lot.
Yes.
And I just loved what you said a second ago about you're the master care package packager.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
I was really good at getting packages overseas to him and to his unit. Unfortunately, I haven't learned that you don't have to pack things quite as well when you're shipping within the States. And so I get a lot of feedback from people that they can't get into my packages when I send them because they're too secure.
That's right. So, they're too secure. Yeah. That's right. They can't break into
tape.
them. That's right. 2 rolls, 3 rolls of tape.
Yep.
The story I think I want to close. Well, I don't want to close just yet. I want to ask if there's anything else right now, Betsy, because I get to know Chris. What a tremendous man to serve his state, his country, his family, his troops. We've only got a glimpse of who he was, and there's so much more. But these are powerful little vignettes, I think. Does anything else come to mind when someone touches that stone and feels the weight of it, and they need to know just who he was, right?
I think he was someone who just cared deeply about the country, about family, friends, and everyone. And he was also someone who just really believed in living life to the fullest.
Right.
Every day was a gift, and he really encouraged people to make the most of it.
That's powerful right there, Betsy. Every day's a gift. Tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Live life to the fullest. And you lived life together. You did this together in your time on the beach and running and hanging out on the beach and coming down here New Year's Eve. You come down to the beach, right? Kayak. I like the story you told me about how he kind of gave you the expectations of who he was when you met him. Do you remember saying something like that?
Sure.
The expectations?
Yep, when I first met him, he had come back to finish his college degree.
Right.
He'd been on active duty, and so when we first started dating, he really talked a lot about what the military meant to him, and
right.
It wasn't a job, it was a part of who he was, and
right.
talked a lot about how hard it can be to be in a relationship with someone who's
right.
being deployed
right.
and such, and told me what it would be like, and so I knew that to be in a relationship with him, I had to also honor the importance that he put on the military and service.
Loving him is loving that part of
Absolutely.
him too. In the Army.
Yeah.
And tell me more about being the first sergeant too, right? He had the college degree.
Yep. He loved being a first
right.
sergeant. He wanted to continue to serve as a first sergeant so that he could be with his troops, he could
That's
be
right.
out in the field, he could be there to support them.
Awesome.
He kind of had the best of both worlds because he got to do a lot of the planning and such, but
right.
he also had the first-hand contact with his troops.
That's so cool. That's cool. Oh, by the way, right, as a first sergeant taking care of his troops, his wife is the social worker, you, right?
Yeah.
So you helped out taking care of the troops too. I think that's a really cool part of the story. It was a team effort.
Absolutely.
You guys were a great couple serving other people before yourself. I want to talk about the bench in Kennebunk, actually. We have to tie this in with Fran Harrison, who's part of our team on the Summit Project. And what a delight it was to figure this out today. But tell me the whole story. How?
Well, there's a bench dedicated to my husband in Veterans Park in Kennebunk.
Right.
And it's been there for quite a few years now that we had a ceremony and such. And a few years ago, I noticed that there was a second bench that was placed
right.
in the park. And that was dedicated to a veteran as well. And at Christmas time, I always put a small wreath on my husband's bench, just to dress it up and to let him, just because I'm thinking of him. And when I noticed that there was a second bench there with another veteran, I started putting a wreath on that bench as well. I didn't know who the family was. I'd
right.
never met them.
Right.
And I was hoping that they would be okay with that.
That's right.
And then as it turns out, when I'm here today, I met the family member.
Unbelievable.
It was amazing.
It's Fran's father, who's a colonel in the Marine Corps.
Yep.
He has a bench dedicated to him.
Yep.
You're putting the wreaths on it for a number of years
Yep.
now, or for
Yes.
some time.
Yep.
And I bring Fran today to meet with you.
Mm-hmm.
She's on the Summit Project Board of Directors, also a Kennebunk resident. And then now you two get to meet and make this amazing connection. And now you're going to go out and carry the stone and put wreaths on other people's benches. And I think you're going to get a dinner invite next week in the mail.
It was an amazing gift to meet her.
What a gift.
What a connection. I'm really excited.
For me, the gift is you meeting with us today and meeting with me today. The gift of Chris, the gift that he gave of his service. I want to thank you and your sacrifices too, Betsy.
Well, thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. And I said this to you earlier, and I just think it's really important, is that what you're doing is ensuring that our loved ones won't be forgotten. And for the family of a fallen hero, that's the greatest gift there is. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. I take comfort in being able to look families in the eye and I say, I think we have a plan to do that. It's called heavy backpacks, but we're heavy backpacks, but we're carrying a symbol of the fallen that uniquely represents them, that you've gone out and chosen, right? It has symbolism and people can interact and make connections just like we did today.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool. Anything else? Any closing thoughts at all?
Just gratitude for the life I shared with Chris and
For sure.
this project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the coffee and donuts too.
You're
That's
welcome.
really nice. Okay, done.